little Wildcats. Since we're doing farm this week, I'd like to read to you a silly story about some animals on a farm and how they make the farmer very frustrated. But before we begin, I'd like to have us identify the characters in the story. The first bunch of characters, the main characters, their name begins with a k sound. They're usually black and white. They make a funny sound, and they produce milk. What kind of animal is that? Did you guess this kind of animal? A cow. The cows are the main character. That's how you say cows. How you write cows. Cows. It begins with a k. And they go moo. All right. I think you guys know that. There's a second character in the story, and his name begins with a d. He lives on a farm, and he is kind of a bird, and he goes quack. Did you guess a duck? That's the second character, a duck. The third bunch of characters, their name begins with a h. And they are important because they produce a lot of things that we like to have for breakfast or in an omelet. Can you guess what they are? If you guessed hen, you're right. Hens. So they're in the story also. Another character in the story, I think I mentioned him briefly. His name begins with a f. He's the man who runs the whole place. He is the farmer. There he is. He's the farmer. Now the cows, they make something that begins with a What do cows make that begins with a Did you guess this? Milk. That's what cows make. And that's in the story too. There's something that the hens make, and that begins with a Did you guess eggs? An egg? That's right. That's an egg. That's what the cows or the hens make, and that's in the story too. Now there's kind of a really silly thing in the story, and it begins with a t. It's a long word. This says typewriter. Now a typewriter is an old-fashioned machine that's kind of like what we used to use before we used computers. Now this is a keyboard, but I don't own a typewriter anymore. It's similar to this, though, in that it's got letters on it, and you make a little click, clack noise on it when you put your fingers over it to make the words. That's a keyboard, but we're talking about a typewriter in the story. Now, the last thing is something that you use at night on your bed. It begins with a B. It keeps you warm. Or sometimes if you're sitting on the couch and you're wanting to be a little cozy, maybe you find one of these and you put it over you on a couch. It's a b. Did you guess a blanket? A blanket? That's in the story also. Okay, so let's get started with the story. Have our cow pay attention as we read. Okay, this is called Click, Clack, Moo, Cows That Type. And the click, clack is the sound that they make on the keyboard. And if you're wondering why cows are typing, that's part of the reason why the book is so silly. Isn't that cute? Look at his little eyeballs. I like how the illustrator drew them. Farmer Brown has a problem. His cows like to type. All day long he hears, click, clack, moo. Click, clack, moo. Clackety, clack, moo. He looks not very happy. At first, he couldn't believe his ears. Cows that type? Impossible. Click, clack, moo. Click, clack, moo. Clickety, clack, moo. Then he couldn't believe his eyes. This is the note that they left for him. Dear Farmer Brown, the barn is very cold at night. We'd like some electric blankets. Sincerely, the cows. It was bad enough the cows had found the old typewriter in the barn. Now they wanted electric blankets? No way, said Farmer Brown. No electric blankets. So the cows went on strike. They left a note on the barn door. Sorry, we're closed. No milk today. Do you think the farmer's happy? Can you tell? What's the clue that tells you he's not very happy? The illustration. Look at that. I think he's really not very happy. No milk today, cried Farmer Brown. In the background, he heard the cows, busy at work. Click, clack, moo. Click, clack, moo. Clickety, clack, moo. I like how they're tapping it out with their little hoofs. The next day, he got another note. Dear Farmer Brown, the hens are cold too. They'd like electric blankets. Sincerely, the cows. He's reading their note. The cows were growing impatient with the farmer. They left a new note on the barn door. Closed. No milk. No eggs. No eggs, cried Farmer Brown. In the background, he heard them. Click, clack, moo. Click, clack, moo. Clickety, clack, moo. Cows that type, hens on strike. Who ever heard of such a thing? How can I run a farm with no milk and no eggs? Farmer Brown was furious. Farmer Brown got out his own typewriter. Dear cows and hens, there will be no electric blankets. You are cows and hens. I demand milk and eggs. Sincerely, Farmer Brown. Duck was a neutral party, so he brought the ultimatum to the cows from the farmer. He's carrying his note over. The cows held an emergency meeting. All the animals gathered around the barn to snoop, but none of them could understand moo. All night long, Farmer Brown waited for an answer. Duck knocked on the door early the next morning. He handed Farmer Brown a note. Dear Farmer Brown, we will exchange our typewriter for electric blankets. Leave them outside the barn door, and we will send Duck over with the typewriter. Sincerely, the cows. Farmer Brown decided this was a good deal. He left the blankets next to the barn door and waited for Duck to come with a typewriter. Look at, they have all the electric blankets on. They look very snugly, don't they? The next morning, he got a note. Uh-oh, who's using the typewriter now? Dear Farmer Brown, the pond is quite boring. We'd like a diving board. Sincerely, the ducks. Click, clack, quack. Click, clack, quack. Clickety, clack, quack. What's going to happen? How's Farmer Brown going to feel about that? tell how the story ends? Do you think Farmer Brown gave in and gave them what the ducks wanted? I think he did. I hope you like that story, Wildcats. It's pretty funny. Talk to you later.